Welcome to today's session. And okay, so I have something that I want to talk about in today's session. And then maybe what we will do is towards the end, we will end with a sitting practice. And um, yeah, I think that's what we would do. So basically, what I want to talk about today is that um, our behavior is generally ruled by two factors. Uh, One is our beliefs, our ideas about who we are, uh, what we understand about life, how life is meant to be lived. Um, mm, yeah, I think these are the three very primary questions: who we are, what we understand about life, and how life is meant to be lived. And whether we are aware of um, uh, the belief associated with these three questions: who we are, how life is meant to be lived, and no, who we are, what we understand about life, and how life is meant to be lived. Uh, Whether we are aware of the answers to these questions or not, but the fact is, all of us have some, whether it's conscious or unconscious, we have some idea about who we are, what is life, how life is meant to be lived. And it's like a program which sort of runs our life. Quite often, of course, it begins with childhood conditioning, in the sense, whatever we are told by our parents, whatever we are told by society. I think a simple explanation of who we don't go deep into who we are. I think who we are is quite often when we are young defined by what society thinks of us, because that seems to be who we are. So either we may adapt to whatever society wants us to do, or we may become a rebel against what society is telling us to do. Either which way, it is a reaction to what the others expect of us. Either we are adapting, we are saying, okay, fine, I conform, I adapt to what you're saying, or I rebel against what you're saying. And then over a period of time, this who we are, what we understand of life, and how life is meant to be lived is not is not is not static. It changes. I'm assuming it changes, because that is the whole evolution of a human being. What he thinks of himself or she thinks of himself, what he or she thinks of life, and how he or she is meant to live a life, unless that doesn't change and evolve with experiences, there is no growth, there is no maturity, because that's what the whole of maturity and growth. Because if we are stuck with the old beliefs that we have, then, and that quite often happens with some people, they are so rigid about their ideas and beliefs, unwilling to change, because our sense of identity comes from our belief, our core belief. So our core belief may be, like, or our core identity could be that, maybe I'm a mother. Uh, and as a mother, my role is to take care of my children. In fact, recently, interestingly, I just met somebody in a cafe yesterday here in Dharamkot, and she is now just 51. And so we got around to talking just casually. We just happened to meet. And uh, so I was asking her about her background, where she's from, what does she do, and all of that. And she said that she's from Delhi. And she said that she's left her corporate job, which was in advertising, for she's been doing that for a long period of time. And now she's come on her own to Dharamkot for some time to just spend time by herself. And she has a husband, she has two grown up children who are now pursuing further studies. And and she was sharing that whole of her life was lived in trying to be this perfect daughter, this perfect wife, this perfect mother, and constantly trying to be what others wanted her to be, with the hope perhaps to be in the good books of others, perhaps to please others, perhaps to not take too much risk, whatever be the reason. And she said, in spite of my trying to be this best person and, playing all these roles perfectly as much as I could, giving of myself far more than was necessary, still people are not happy with me. So, uh, so that was interesting. And she said that now that my children are grown up and they have gone for further studies, they're not dependent on me, I've decided to sort of take off on my own. And like for the last 2 3 months I've just been traveling, and I just want to figure, like, who am I really, what is it that I really want to do, where is it that I really want to live, what kind of. And I think that naturalness comes only when we have the freedom to be ourselves. When I say freedom to be ourselves, because quite often we are constantly part of a system, a social system, whether it's a family, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a community, whether it's friends, whether it's relatives, whether it's a religious association, whether it's a club membership, whether it is a spiritual organization. And till the time we are always a part of this, somewhere we are always influenced by the requirements of the system. And then in our need to belong, to be part of a system, because at the end of the day we are social beings, we perhaps, what's the word that I should use, we perhaps never get a chance, or we never even think of exploring who would I be if I didn't have these unconscious influences of the system telling me who I should be. So I think when we either, maybe over a period of time, like this in the case of this lady, when she's now 51, she has now the luxury to sort of, she's free of her responsibilities towards her children, and now she's um, exploring and experimenting with life. Maybe some of us um, may drop off from our corporate careers midway and want to just explore and experiment with life. But the point I'm trying to say is this: freedom is necessary to discover what, who am I, what are my values, how I wish to live my life. Uh, so, having said that, I think when our beliefs over a period of time, when we shed old beliefs and no new beliefs have not come in, that's a very, very mm, vulnerable period of our life, because the beliefs are like the operating system that tell us what we must do, which essentially gives a sense of identity. This is who I am. This is what I feel is right. This is what I feel is wrong. This is so we operate out of those beliefs. So when something happens, and the beliefs that we have either are no longer serving us, are no longer valid, or it is difficult for us to believe what we have been believing all this while, then that's really a very, very difficult, vulnerable period of a person's life. Like, I remember this. uh, a lady who, um, when COVID was going on, uh, her husband got COVID. Husband must be fairly young, not very old, maybe what, 40s or something like that. And so she was very, very. I mean, she did the best she could, like giving him the best medical treatment and care. And she had great faith in God, whatever her belief may be, but in God. And then she was extremely sincere, dedicated about her prayers. And she used to, we were in touch. And she said, I've been trying and praying and praying, and because I've not done anything bad, and neither has my husband. So I'm certain that he will recover. And I'm, I have faith in God, and, all of that. And then her husband was in the hospital for some time, and eventually he passed away. And then the whole deep belief that she had, that there is this God who is a benevolent God, and then if I'm a good person, then nothing bad per se should happen to me because I've not hurt anybody, and I'm sincerely and dedicatedly praying to God. But then mm, mm, it didn't work out. Now that is extremely vulnerable, because you lose faith in your idea and notion of God, who is this benevolent being and who listens to prayers, who does not hurt anyone, who is um, kind, just, follows the rules, is moral. So then this belief begins to shake and crash. Or let's assume there's another belief you have, that the most important mm, thing in your life is the love of near and dear ones. Family is the most important thing, and family members are always going to stand by us, are always going to be with us, and we must do whatever we can for our family members. And then if something happens where, supposing a family member betrays or cheats us or betrays our trust, then this belief about family is always there for you. Now that comes crashing down. So whenever this belief which runs our life comes crashing down, that's a really, really vulnerable uh, period of our life. And finally, I think the core belief that we all human beings carry is that I am a person, and with a story. That is finally the core belief that we all have. That I am this individual with a past, and this individual with a future, and that is also a belief, because if you really look at it, this so-called individual exists only when the thinking process or this conceptual process occurs. In reality, there is just this whole of existence uh, expressing itself in different forms. The whole of existence is expressing itself through this form. Life is happening in this form. Breath is happening in this form. Sensations are happening in this form. Thoughts are happening in this form. It is not like me, the person who's doing it, that I am Ajay, and I'm a separate person and I'm living my life. And that's the belief that our mind kind of creates for all of us, that I am the separate person who's living a life. But in reality, it's the whole of existence which is expressing itself through different forms. Mm. So that is the core belief which is challenged through this philosophy of Advaita, non-duality, oneness. Different paths may talk about it in different ways. Buddhism may call it's all emptiness. There's no separation. It's shunyata, and different ways of. So So life is lived according to beliefs. These beliefs change or uh, over a period of time. Now, that change may happen because of life circumstances or because old beliefs are no longer fulfilling us or are getting absolute, which are getting challenged in view of life circumstances. And then the person is looking for a new belief to take over the old programming, because we need to know who am I, what is life, and how life is to left is meant to be lived. Okay, these three questions are really really important. Somebody needs to, because like if I were to give an example of this person whose husband had COVID, and when he passed away, and she said, then she's asking, now I'm wondering, this whole thing that if we do good karma, then good things then will happen to us. And now I'm wondering, why should I do any kind of good karma? I'm also wondering, is there really a God? Now, and then she's asking me with the hope that I'm going to tell her that no, you should continue doing good karma, or there's a God. I really do. So we are also looking at authority figures in our own, whoever is considered an authority figure in our circle. Maybe it may be a coach, it may be a mentor, it may be a guru, it may be a teacher, a spiritual teacher, a religious teacher, uh, uh, elder of a community, a wise man. We want somebody to tell us, okay, what belief should I live with? Fine, if my this belief is gone, then what belief should I live with? And that's what today's session is. That is it possible to live without necessarily having a belief? And because even if we don't believe anything, uh, belief is nothing but our mind taking on certain ideas and thoughts and believing it is real. Even the belief that I am a separate person with a past and a future. Because even if you don't believe something, life is still happening. Life is not saying that, okay, only because you're believing you're so and so person, that this is how life is meant. This is how life is. This is how life is meant to be lived. Because you have these ideas and notions and belief, hence there will be existence and life. Whether we believe something or whether we don't believe something, life is still happening. Existence is still existing. Uh, It's like um, when we go to sleep, the so-called ideas and beliefs are not there, but still existence is happening. It's consciousness is happening. Mm. So life does not necessarily need beliefs to live itself. Having said that, uh, it's good to be self-aware of what my natural self-expression is. When I say my natural self-expression is, means every human mind and body has different ways in which it wants to express itself, in different ways in which it seeks fulfillment. Now that is not a belief. That is stemming from, like, um, I like to be in nature. I like to do trekking. Now, that's not the belief. It's an expression of this body and mind, and it feels fulfilled. Maybe I love to sketch and I love to paint. I love to do some artistic, creative thing. Now, that is not a belief. It is a natural expression of this body and mind, and that gives it fulfillment. Like I love to teach, I love to write. Now, that's not a belief. It is a natural expression of this body and mind, and it fulfills itself. But the belief is, oh, I must be successful. A belief is, oh, I must be someone. That is a belief. Mm. Like I love to teach. I love to write. That's a natural self-expression of myself, because it fulfills me. I just feel so one whenever I'm doing that activity, and then I may be called like, okay, I'm a teacher, I'm a writer. These labels come later. The expression and the fulfillment, or the expression of nature or existence or life through this body and mind comes first. The label that now I am a teacher, or you're a teacher, or you're a writer, that comes later. So it's good to sort of see this distinction, that I'm not trying to be a teacher, I'm not trying to be a writer, or not, someone is not trying to be a dancer, someone is not trying to be a artist or a painter. It is the natural self-expression of that body and mind to fulfill itself through those activities. And later on the label comes, okay, you're a dancer, you're this, but then that's not. So there is really no word that can really define us. Even for practical relative purposes, we can use these labels. So I'm a teacher, I'm a dancer, I'm a whatever. But really speaking, when we get in touch with mm, a natural expression of us, then we are not so confined by labels. So finally, coming to um, the ultimate, when I say the ultimate in terms of the purpose of spirituality, is eventually the goal is to realize that I am not this separate person, and there is no such thing as I. There is only existence. There is only, you can call it by whatever name, there's only life that is happening. And then one takes on the role and identity of, I am a seeker of uh, spirituality. I'm a practitioner of awareness. That again becomes another role one takes. So I would perhaps offer through this session is that maybe there are times that we need to sort of just be with ourselves. mm, and which is why I think the value of the word retreat, which means for some time, maybe don't listen to somebody. I mean, don't listen to somebody means don't listen to any YouTube videos of some teachers or speakers talking. Maybe for some time, don't read some books, because we are constantly taking on some ideas and beliefs. Maybe for some time, just be and be empty if possible. When I'm saying be empty means, like, if, and especially at a time when the transitioning is happening, the old beliefs have shed, the new beliefs haven't come, just be. And I don't know for how long you may need to be. Maybe you need to take a break, go out, go somewhere for a week, maybe go out, go somewhere for a month. Maybe you don't even need to go out. Maybe you can just be wherever you are. But it's like retreating into your own self, retreating into silence and just being. You don't know, and be with this, like, I don't know who I am really. I don't know what life is really about. And I don't know how life is meant to be lived. And I am not even looking for an answer. Mm. I am just with these questions, and I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just with these questions and just be. And maybe out of that beingness, that out of that silence, some insight may emerge. Now, that insight is not so much like oh, now you have realized through words, this is who I am, this is what. But that insight is more like an energetic shift, where the energy inside shifts and it some some change happens. It's not something, a change happens wherein now I am no longer a Hindu, I have converted to becoming a Muslim. No, so I have given up these old beliefs. Now I've taken up these new beliefs of Islam. No, that's not real. This is not giving one belief and taking a new set of. It's like giving up a set of pre-existing programs and taking a new set of pre-existing programs. Okay, this is not that. This is more like, it cannot really be expressed in words. Maybe it's just the penny drops. Maybe you yeah, you find a sense of inner peace and harmony, but it cannot necessarily be put in words why that inner peace and harmony is. I think that's the best way of putting it. That inner peace and harmony comes because of something in you that has settled down, but it's difficult for you to put in words. Okay, mm, and say that, oh, this is who I am, this is how life is, this is how I should live my life. It's not you. That inner peace and harmony is not coming because you're taking a new set of beliefs. That inner peace and harmony is coming because something within you has settled down and found that energy has moved to a more authentic space. I'm using words to describe an experience which is really more visceral, but since we are talking, then I have nothing else but to use words. So I think that's what is needed. So that just silence, just being, because, and why I say silence is because when we are talking, we are constantly using the word I. If you really look at it, the one word, the one alphabet which is used most throughout our conversation, throughout our writing, whatever, is the word I. From morning to night, this word I is almost there in every single sentence. So we are constantly creating our identity that I am this, I don't like this, I am, and then others are also validating that identity. So perhaps if I have to move beyond this conceptual I, which is coming out of conditioning, maybe I need to experience and just be silent. And silent means not just talking. Maybe silence is also learning to just be. This mental chatter also needs to go off. Which is that you can't even forcefully stop your mental chatter. It's like, just, how do I say, the attitude one should have is that I just am. I'm just aware of what's happening. I'm not trying to find an answer. I'm not trying to resist what is happening. I just am. Or there is only just this existence that is happening. Then when the more we are in that space, the greater the possibility that we will find our own inner harmony and balance by itself without having to take on a new set of beliefs, a new set of ideas. Because the need for us to take on a new set of beliefs is what we are really looking at some external authority to validate what we believe. Because whatever new set of beliefs we are taking is something which has been validated by somebody else already. It is not our own truth, so to speak. It is a truth of somebody else, that it feels easy and comfortable to take and live that truth. Because yeah, majority says this, the religious leader says this, the spiritual teacher says this. So we are constantly looking for that external validation, external authority, and the external beliefs to tell us who we are, what life is, how it is meant to be lived. But it's not coming from within us. It is not our own answer. So we are constantly dependent on external authorities to define who we are. So I think that's one thing, that retreating into ourselves, into just being with ourselves. And I think it's also sometimes you need not necessarily have to like take 7 days at a stretch or a month. You can also take time out during your day, maybe in the morning time, just retreat, just be with yourself. Maybe in the evening time for some time, just retreat, be with yourself. That's the time when you're just being, you're not this or that, you're not resisting something, you're not looking for something, you're just, there's just this existence. And a certain balance sometimes just comes back. There's more groundedness, there's more connection to being. Mhm. The energy, the shifts from this constant conceptual thinking, the unconscious mind and ideas and notions and beliefs to just, and there could be different things that can help you to also come back into that space of beingness. Maybe sometimes it's being close to nature, maybe going for a walk, maybe sometimes it's just going for a run. Mm, whatever, maybe doing something creative, whatever works for you to come back into that state of just being. And I think the other thing is, especially when we are going through a, a vulnerable period of our life where old beliefs have fallen, and I wouldn't say new beliefs have not taken, because the idea is not to replace old beliefs with new pre-existing beliefs. The idea is like learning to be comfortable without necessarily having beliefs, which is really very difficult, which means just existing, just being the breathing. When the breath is happening, the breath doesn't have to have a belief that, oh, I'm a Hindu breath, or I'm a Parsi breath, or I'm a Christian breath, or I'm a Indian breath, or I am a capitalist breath, or I'm a communist breath. It's just breath. It doesn't need a belief. It's just existence. So learning to sort of disassociate from all beliefs and just come into pure existence. Yeah. So especially when the old beliefs have shut down or crumbled or, you know dissipated because of certain life circumstances, it's a very vulnerable and a difficult time in our life. And sometimes I think it just helps to pray. Now, as it is, we are conversing and chatting and talking all the time, whether we are talking to somebody or whether we are talking in our own head. Mental chatter is a continuous process. So why not, if the chatter is happening, that I'm a person and I'm constantly chatting, talking, whether it is talking to somebody else or whether it is chattering in my, why not seek, or why not express my vulnerability to, you may call it, oneness, which is what really what is, or you may call it nature, you may call it universe, you may call it isness, you may call it God, you may call it divine, you may call it mystery, whatever it is. Because I think prayers can be quite therapeutic, especially when we are going through a vulnerable period of time. Because quite often, what I've seen, that especially when people come to the philosophy of Advaita and non-duality, and non-duality is just about isness. It's all about just, there is no separate person, there is only what is. That isness can be called, in traditional terms, that could be called Brahman. And the Buddhists can call that emptiness, or it could be called as fullness. That could be called as, different names. Yes, but even in that isness, there are many ways that that isness is expressing itself in different forms. So there is space in that isness for prayer. The wave can always, the wave which is water, can still pray to water and can still relate to the ocean in the form of a prayer. And sometimes it just helps to settle us down. Huh? And the prayer need not, yeah, of course, we can take on these again pre existing prayers of like whatever Christian prayer or Hindu prayer or whatever. But sometimes I think it's just good to talk to that oneness as though it's a friend, and talk in the language that you feel most comfortable talking, that you don't have to make this. I remember when I was in uh, when I was in boarding school, and we were before our meals, we were, mm, we each one of us has to prepare a prayer at different times, and then you say your prayers, and then everyone would sit down to have the meals. And all of us would try to outdo each other in trying to make the most fancy prayer, the most long prayer, the most, we would talk, God, dear, God, please bless, of course, this food and the farmers, and thank you for the rain and the cultivation of the soil. We would try to bring all new words and vocabulary in our prayer because we were so busy trying to impress the nuns and sort of compete with each other while praying. But so this is not not really about, it's just about being simple and saying what is really heartfelt. Because I feel this whole universe, if you really boil it down to what it is energy. And this is also scientific. It's not just spiritual that I'm talking about. It's just one energy. And energy is basically energy vibrates in different frequencies. And each form has different frequencies at which it is vibrating. So a prayer is also an energy frequency that one that you're emitting into the universe. Energy frequency that comes from deep honesty, energy frequency that comes from deep sincerity, an energy frequency that comes from deep longing, energy frequency that comes from a very personal quest to be truthful, to find truth, to be the truth. So when we express ourselves through the prayer, we are also emitting this energy frequency into the universe. And the universe perhaps responds to that energy frequency. Mm. And that prayer also brings clarity in terms of what's happening to me. So, and quite often in these spiritual paths, you have this Gyan Marg, knowledge, which could be the path of Advaita, oneness. Then you have the Bhakti Marg, which is prayer, devotion, worship, rituals. Then you have the path of Karma, which is selfless action. Then you have the path of Raj Yoga or Dhyan Yoga, which is meditation. And I don't think one needs to really be exclusive. Okay, now that I am Advaita, so I don't need to pray because there's only oneness. So there is no such thing as me and God. There is only just this one existence. Yes, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that one needs to give up devotion. Uh, or that doesn't mean that one needs to give up the practice of, um, I don't like the word meditating, but the practice of just silence and stillness. Uh, So this is quite often like once we take on this path, then we want to discard this path or we want to look down on these other paths. Oh, I think everything has its place. Like just like in your a healthy balanced meal, you need some protein, you need some carbs, you need some vitamins, you need some um, You need everything to have a balanced meal. So in the same way, one need not exclude anything. Everything has its relevance and place. And I think one needs to, rather than, I we are constantly looking at other people, other teachers, spiritual teachers, coaches, mentors, gurus, to tell us, what we should believe, what we should do, what we should think. I think it's refreshing. In fact, I don't want to take on the role of another teacher who has to tell you what you have to believe and what you should do. It's refreshing if you can be your own guide, because everyone has this inner wisdom that we can access. So the more we are in touch with our own self, the more that, uh, when I say more in touch with our own self, which means we are not constantly lost in these thoughts, uh, but just present to what is, then that presence tells us what is needed in the moment. Maybe what's needed in the moment is just sitting silent, doing nothing. Maybe what's needed in this moment is some action. Maybe what's needed in this moment is some devotion or prayer. Maybe what's needed in this moment is mm, something as simple as maybe being close to nature, maybe going for a walk, having a cup of tea. Nothing profound or significant, but it's just like allowing that own intuitive energy to guide us to what's needed. So, yeah, so even prayer is a great way to manage that transitioning phase of just simple, honest, heartfelt prayers. And one of the persons that I really, I mean, of course, I've read various teachers in the books, and one of the person that who 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 prays very well, if I may say so, teacher. Her name is Marianne Williamson. Her book Return to Love is one I read, and I think her prayers are so heartfelt. I mean, we could go and, now again, I'm not really recommending another teacher to you, but I'm just simply sharing that it's just praying. Whatever comes easily, naturally, you just pray and just express yourself to the divine. Mm. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Um, I think discussion is about beliefs. I also wanted to talk about impulses, but I think that's a different session altogether. Just these, maybe it's something to do with finding your own inner authority, because beliefs that we take on from others is not your own inner wisdom. I think, yeah, inner wisdom, inner authority, inner wisdom is, I think, a good word. That something which is not coming from ideas and beliefs necessarily, but something that comes from a sense of inner harmony, groundedness, being. And I think sometimes you need to take time out from all external authority and beliefs and ideas to find your own groundedness. Mm. And also, prayers is also, I think, a devotion is a great way to just relate to that oneness. So let's end the session with the small sitting practice, and then we'll end it with a small prayer as well. So sit comfortably wherever you are. You can keep your palms or hands in whatever position feels comfortable. You can close your eyes and take a nice, long, deep breath in and exhale. And just surrender to what is. sound, breath, sensation, even thoughts. Whatever is right now is an expression of life, is an expression of existence. Just let go, surrender. Just be empty of the past and of the future. There's just this moment right now. And it's inevitable because it's already here. One cannot change it, one cannot resist it. It already is. Breathing, sensing, listening, thinking. All of these functions are happening by themselves. No one in particular is doing any of it. Next few moments, just be in silence and stillness. We'll end the session. Continue sitting with eyes closed. A small spontaneous prayer. My dear higher self, I really do not know who I am. I really do not know what life is. I really do not know how life is meant to be lived. I have a sincere desire to be honest, truthful, compassionate, kind, sensitive to self and others. I have an honest desire to be authentic, creative, genuine in whatever I do. I have an honest desire to seek the truth, whatever that may be, the truth of who I am, and the truth of life. I have listened to various teachers and gurus. I have read various books, but I come to you directly now to help me, to guide me in whichever way you feel right. I no longer am looking for a particular answer. I'm no longer resisting anything. I'm open and receptive to whatever insight, realization, shift you wish to bring. I surrender myself to your wisdom. I seek your grace in finding inner harmony, peace, and my own wisdom, which is not different from yours, but it's the same. I offer my love and gratitude for your guidance, for your care, for your protection. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Okay. Gently rub your palms, cup your eyes. Okay. So, with that, we end today's session, which is about finding our own wisdom, our own truth, which comes from a space of, I think, the fragrance of inner wisdom is inner harmony, inner peace, inner groundedness. It need not necessarily be expressed in words and beliefs and ideas and concepts. And perhaps to journey towards that, we need to free ourselves from other ideas and beliefs and concepts and come into space of our own silence, And reaching out to that oneness through prayer and devotion may be helpful. On that note, we end today's session. Goodbye. God bless. Take care.